Welcome to the AI Disability Podcast, where lived experience meets artificial intelligence. My name is John McKenna, using an AI-generated voice to explain that I'm the human producer behind the AI Disability Podcast. I bring over 60 years of lived experience as a person with a physical disability, along with a lifelong interest in accessibility, inclusion, and the power of shared experiences. As producer, my role is to choose the themes for each episode, guided by my belief that some messages, experiences, and conversations need to continue to be heard. From there, artificial intelligence researches the theme, develops the conversations, using two synthetic voices you will hear as your hosts. Together, we explore disability, technology, accessibility, inclusion, and the future possibilities of AI. Because this podcast is AI-generated, listeners are encouraged to independently verify information. The content is designed to encourage discussion, curiosity, and exploration, and should not be assumed to always be complete, accurate, or factual. The voices are artificial. The message is real. Imagine walking into a busy cafe. The menu, the chatter, the faces, even the little wave from a friend across the room, all arrive as fragments. Not silence, not darkness necessarily, but missing pieces. I'm Riley, and today we're talking about deafblindness.
And I'm Ashley. The first thing to say is that deafblindness means combined vision and hearing impairment, but it's a huge spectrum. Some people have no usable sight or hearing, while many have some vision, some hearing, or changing levels of both.
Right, and that's the bit I think people often miss. They hear the word and picture one single experience, when actually we're talking about a wide range of bodies, histories, communication styles, and support needs.
True, international estimates vary, but studies often place deafblindness somewhere between about 0.2 and 2% of the population. It's considered low incidence, yet across the world that still means millions of people and families navigating daily life differently.
So let's split this open gently. Today we're looking at congenital deafblindness, acquired deafblindness, the practical effects, and the emotional impact, but with a positive lens. What helps people connect, learn, move, work, and belong.
Let's start with congenital deafblindness. That means a person is born deafblind, or their combined vision and hearing impairment happens before spoken, signed, or visual language has developed. Causes can include genetic conditions, infections during pregnancy, birth complications, disease, or early childhood injury.
Wait, so for a child with congenital deafblindness, communication isn't simply about learning a different language. It's about building the very idea that communication is possible through touch, routine, movement, objects, and trusted people. Have I got this right?
That's beautifully put, Riley. A baby learns so much from watching faces and hearing voices, so when those channels are limited, skilled communication partners become crucial. They notice small signals, a change in breathing, a hand movement, a turn of the head, a smile, a pause.
And that makes the partner part of the access system, not just a helper hovering nearby. The person has to be tuned in, patient, and consistent, because one child's yes or I'm done might be highly individual.
Absolutely. And the positive news is that communication can grow. Adapted sign, touch cues, objects that represent activities, braille, print, assistive technology, and environmental changes can all give a child more ways to understand and express themselves.
Now, acquired deafblindness is different, isn't it? Because there may already be a language, an identity, a career, friendships, ways of getting around, and then the person's access to the world starts changing.
That's the big difference. Acquired deafblindness can happen when someone is deaf or hard of hearing and later loses vision. When someone is blind or vision impaired and later loses hearing, or when both senses deteriorate through aging, accident, injury, or disease.
A concrete example would be Usher syndrome, right? A person may be born deaf or hard of hearing, then develop retinitis pigmentosa, a progressive eye condition that can narrow vision over time, often beginning in adolescence or early adulthood.
Yes, and that means repeated adjustment. Someone who relied on visual sign language might need tactile signing as vision changes. Someone who relied on hearing for orientation, audiobooks, or conversation might need to adapt their communication strategies when hearing becomes less reliable.
Let's define tactile sign language interpreting clearly because it's such a powerful idea. My simple version is spoken or signed information is conveyed through touch, so the deafblind person can receive language through their hands or body.
That's it. In hand over hand or hands on signing, the deaf-blind person may place their hands over the interpreter's hands to feel signs, movement, rhythm, and placement. Other methods include tactile finger spelling, tracing letters on the palm, tactile alphabets, braille-based approaches, and haptic signals like taps or pressure.
And it's not just word for word translation, is it? If everyone in a room laughs, or a speaker sounds sarcastic, or someone enters late and changes the mood, that social information matters too.
Absolutely. Good tactile interpreting can include tone, emphasis, environmental information, and turn-taking. There's also an evolving approach often called pro-tactile language, where touch isn't a backup for sight or hearing. Touch becomes the main language space using hands, arms, shoulders, taps, movements, and shared body-based cues.
Here's where I can imagine a tension. On one side, families and educators might want standardized systems because consistency makes training easier and support more available across schools, workplaces, healthcare, and public life.
I hear that, but the counterpoint is strong. Deaf-blind people are not all the same, and imposing one system can erase personal preference, culture, age of onset, residual vision or hearing, and fatigue. The best communication plan is often tailored, not off the shelf.
Fair. But if everything is individualized, does that make access fragile? If only 3 people understand someone's signals, then a hospital visit, university class, or job interview becomes a lot harder than it should be.
That's the unresolved part. We need both: a wider pool of skilled communication partners and deep respect for individual communication. Think of it like music. There are shared notes and techniques, but every person still has their own instrument and style.
The effects ripple across learning, mobility, friendships, daily tasks, and information access. But I don't want listeners to hear only difficulty. With adapted environments, technology, safe orientation skills, and communication partners who slow down and pay attention, life can be rich and self-directed.
And emotionally, that's huge. Isolation, low confidence, anxiety, and depression can happen when information and connection are blocked. But belonging can be built through touch-based conversation, predictable routines, accessible education, meaningful work, peer connection, and the simple dignity of being addressed directly.
So the takeaway is this: deafblindness isn't one story, and it's not a closed door. Whether congenital or acquired, the heart of support is connection, skilled communication, and choice. I'm Riley, with Ashley, and thanks for listening with care.